Hey everyone, welcome back to Riffs Across Generations. I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm here with my co host.
Eli.
And we are joined by Ritchie Randall, guitarist from the legendary doom thrash punk grind band from Joplin, Missouri, Gravehuffer. How you doing, Ritchie?
Good, Andrew, Eli. How you guys doing today?
Doing good over here.
Doing well. Yeah,
Good,
absolutely.
good, good.
Um, Before we jump right in and start talking about Gravehuffer, I heard rumors or somebody told me that you are actually named after Ritchie Blackmore. Is there is there truth to that? And if so, that's pretty badass.
Yes, yes, there is actually. Yeah, my parents are massive Deep Purple fans. So yeah, my dad used to be stationed in the army in Germany. This would have been late 60s, early 70s, and he saw Deep Purple and that just blew his mind, I guess. And so
Nice.
he he's like, oh man, that guitar player, man, he was just incredible. He'd never seen it or heard anything like that. And so it had quite the impact on him, and so he decided to name me after Ritchie Blackmore.
Yeah, very cool. Do you
So
think that took away some of your free will on what you were going to do with your life? Like you had to make music at that point?
it's funny you say that because like I've always been attracted to music and guitar in particular, drums too, vocal, like just music in general. But for whatever reason, guitar was the instrument I picked up. I just thought it looked cool and like Judas Priest in particular. When I saw that Unleashed in the East record in my dad's collection, I saw KK Downing with his flying V, like holding it up, throwing the poses, and I was like, dude,
Nice, nice. Yeah.
that's amazing. This would have been like 1980, 1981, and I was like
Right, right.
six years old, and I was like, that's it for me, man. That's what I want to do. So
1980. So we're almost the same age. I was born
okay,
in 72, so I'm
okay, yeah,
53.
my
So yeah.
my older brother was born in 72, so
Yeah. So same
yeah.
era of music we can talk about and just
Yeah.
like leave Eli out of the conversation this
Oh,
time
come on.
altogether.
We'll get
Leave
you
me.
involved here.
Yeah, we always joke with Eli. The ongoing thing is, do you remember that when I talk about bands from the '80s and '90s, and
Yeah.
he says, yeah, no, whatever. But we've done
Right.
a good job at molding older bands like Nasty
Hmm.
Savage, Atrophy, and then bringing on some of the newer blood in here. And I think we were excited to get you on because I think you do both of those things really well.
Yeah.
I think you tap into what made metal, death metal, grind metal, punk rock great, but you have like a
Hmm.
modern twist to it. So we're
Yeah.
really excited about that, and we've
Thanks,
been
man.
playing it nonstop over here for weeks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Um,
Awesome.
so let's talk a little about the name
Hmm.
Gravehuffer. It's a pretty
Yeah.
unique name, and so we
Yeah.
looked at some definitions. And grave is a place of burial for a dead body, typically
Hmm.
dug a hole in the ground.
Yep.
Huffer is a bully, a blusterer, or a drug addict who gets high by inhaling or sniffing intoxicating fumes.
Hmm.
Where did the name come from, and how fitting is that for your style?
It's funny, like it's funny you mentioned that. Gravehuffer was initially a friend of ours band. Like the band never like came to fruition. They kind of just didn't just didn't amount to much, I guess. So, but it was a rockabilly band, and we're like,
Oh
it's kind
wow!
of an odd name for that style.
Right?
And we used to be called Crom from Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah.
and Crom, and so that's what we were called from 2008 to 2011, and we there were so many bands called Crom, and so we thinking well, we need to change the name before it gets too confusing. And our friend, he's like, yeah, Gravehuffer never really came to be. And so our bass player Mike's like, hey, what are you gonna do about that name? He's, oh, I don't know. Like, you guys want it? And I'm like, yeah, it's a cool name. It's really
Yeah, yeah,
weird and
yeah.
kind of different. And so like if you Google Gravehuffer together as one word, all you're gonna find is us.
Right.
And so yeah, it really has been a good thing, having that name. And yeah, it is like the dead, inhaling the dead fumes or whatever.
Yeah.
It fits pretty well. It's real grimy and just, because we got a lot of influences and stuff swirling around, and so it fits pretty well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of, you're from 2008, like the band started around 2008. What's the secret to longevity of a band?
Um, you know, I'd say 50% of being in a band is personalities. Like you you kind of have to get along. It's We've had a lot of drummers, so we always joke that we're kind of like Spinal Tap, where we have like one drummer died on choking on vomit, not his own vomit, and then one self-imploded, and one,
Nice.
like we've had a lot of drummers, um, but yeah, it's been me and Mike, our bassist. We've played in different bands together, like through the '90s and stuff. We've been doing it a long time, and we had a couple different singers too, um, but yeah, it's just getting the personalities to mesh. That's the a big part of it as far as longevity. Just getting along with each other, and sometimes I feel like that adds to the writing chemistry too. If you can get along with each other well enough to be able to collaborate and not like if somebody's ideas aren't like gelling with the rest of everybody, like we don't feel like we get along well enough to where we can say, man, I don't know about that. Maybe we should pass on that riff or whatever, like
Nice.
you can do better than that. We can be honest with each other and not worry about hurting each other's feelings and things like that. It is personality, I think, is a huge part of it. But and of course music. I mean, you got to be confident in what you're doing but being collaborative too. Not just one guy runs the show kind of thing.
Right, right.
So yeah, that's my 2 cents on longevity.
Very cool. And you guys, have you always been, I'm assuming it's an assumption, from Joplin and even before
Mm,
Gravehuffer? Like, what
mm,
was being in a metal band? I'm assuming it was metal or punk that you were in even before
mm.
Gravehuffer. What was that
Yeah,
like in Joplin, like in the 80s or 90s?
it was a really cool scene back then, especially like the punk, like the more hardcore punk aspect. Like Mike and I were in a band called Initial Detonation, and it was more like they call it crust punk, and
Sure.
which is more like a political. It's like the American version of anarcho punk from England. So we were doing more of that kind of thing, and the lyrics were a little more like thought provoking and, um, for lack of a better term, I guess liberal. Um, but it was, we had a female vocalist and a male vocalist, a dual
Very
vocalist kind
cool.
of
Yeah.
thing going on, and two guitar players and drums and bass, and there was like freaking a lot of us in a van, but it was like this real intense kind of thing, and we put out a couple of EPs, and we toured the States and into Canada, and it was a lot of fun doing that, and but it kind of like imploded, like halfway through the last tour we did. We did 6 weeks and came home, and we never should have came home because that's when
Mhm.
the proverbial shit hit the fan, and we kind of just dissolved. So.
Right.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and the punk scene around here was pretty big. There's been a few documentaries about it and stuff. Called One was called Ozark Babylon. You should check that out. And
Nice.
I'm trying to think. Seems like there was a couple of other things too. Blues music's another big thing around here too.
Right, right.
Although we don't really play blues, but like when blues musicians come through here, they draw a big, massive crowd, and um, so yeah, the music scene here is pretty good. Like a lot of great musicians in this town.
Yeah, very cool.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
And for those who don't know, Joplin's like on the northern side of the Ozarks. Is that
yeah,
accurate?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
like the northwest border of the Ozarks.
Right, right.
It's like Southwest Missouri. We're about oh, 15, 20 minutes from Kansas, about 20 or 30 minutes from Oklahoma, and like 45 minutes from Arkansas. I mean, it's just right there and
Nice.
real close to all those states. And so they call it the four states. And,
Right.
we're close to Tulsa and Kansas City, Northwest Arkansas, like Wichita, Lawrence, that area. St. Louis is actually further away from us than the Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kansas towns that we
Yeah,
play.
Missouri's a pretty big state, right?
Yeah, it's deep.
Yeah,
And yeah, Missouri borders the most states out of any state in the United States, like
yeah,
9 or something like that. It's kind of
yeah.
crazy.
Crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
So Gravehuffer's been around a long time. You guys have like 5 albums and a couple EPs. Is that accurate?
We got 4 albums and a 2-song EP, and we're working on album 5.
Oh, okay. Working on album 5.
Yeah.
It's a great run so far. So the styles from Gravehuffer, the
Hmm.
consistency I think is the same, but maybe the production style has changed a little bit from
Sure.
album to album. Can you walk
Yeah.
us through kind of that progression from more of a gnarly grinding punk sound into where you progress to now?
Yeah, and we've produced all of our own like recordings and stuff. Like we self-record. We're pretty DIY when it comes to that. And because we've been doing it for so long, we've accumulated enough microphones and cables and mixing boards and
Yeah.
interfaces, computers, all that stuff. We've got enough gear to do it. So we're like, why don't we just do it on our own? And we learned along the way, and that's partially why the production has changed because we're learning something new every time. We don't have a particular style of production necessarily, although it's I think we're getting closer to that.
Hmm.
But our first release was like I bought some like 8-track digital recorder. This was like in 2008, I guess, and we recorded most of what would become Gravehuffer's Blasphemy music record that way. And then our drummer at the time, he had a like a interface and a computer, and we recorded in it in his house. And we've never really recorded in a proper studio setting much, a couple of times, but mostly for like singles or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel like most bands are that way. They strive to make sure their sound is evolving, but also improving. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to like fine tune things and but also experiment at the same time. And hopefully the progression is in the way the production sounds. And I feel like, I mean, personally for me, I feel like the production just keeps getting better and better. Um, but on this next record, we're kind of like we kind of want to bring back more of the raw sound, but
Hmm.
still sound clear. You know, I think that's kind of the purpose for the next record. So
Sure. That's tough to do. Yeah.
it is tough to do.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one of my favorite bands was Impetigo from Illinois a long
Oh
time
my
ago.
gosh. Yeah.
And I think they pulled that off well. They were just
Yeah.
a mess, but very a clear mess.
Yeah. I'm in another death metal band called Freshly Carven Face. I play bass, and we do an Impetigo cover.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys. We saw
Yeah.
Eli and I were at a show. What about 6, 7 months ago? A black metal show, and the drummer had a sticker on his drum kit from them. I was like, "Hey, what
Oh,
was that?
nice.
They're still around."
Yep. It's funny. Our bass player Mike, he used to be in this band called Encrusted, and they were touring in like '94 or something like that. And they ended up staying with the drummer from Impetigo.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I told the
yeah,
guys in Freshly Carven Face, and they're like, "Oh my God!" They were like freaking out.
yeah. I did a fanzine back in the early '90s, and we're
Oh,
lucky enough to
really?
talk to those guys. Yeah,
Oh, that's
so
cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
awesome guys.
That's
Yeah, so
heck yeah.
yeah, that kind of music's been around forever. And like I
Yeah.
said, when I heard you guys, it was like, "Oh, this is great."
Awesome. That's cool.
Uh, I guess speaking of that, we hear a lot of influences in you guys. I don't want to
Hmm.
say you steal someone's
Hmm.
sound from any other
Sure.
band, but when we talk about you, we mentioned bands like Sabbath, Cathedral, Motorhead, and lots of old school like
Yeah.
death metal and like almost
Hmm.
a splash of like skate punk thrown in there from time to time.
Hmm. Yeah.
How close are we to like your big influences?
Oh yeah. I mean, all that, all the above
Nice.
there, man. Like we're totally old punkers and a lot of that old classic death metal and like the first Suicidal Tendencies record was one that like, oh my gosh, this is wild. Like I
Yeah.
remember being on the bus and a friend of mine played that and he had a tape player and he's like, check this out, and freaking, Suicides and Alternatives comes on. I'm like, wow, this is freaking crazy. I'd
Yeah.
never really heard music like that. And I was like just getting into like thrash at the time. So I was like perfect for me. But yeah, we all listened to a lot of that, like those styles. Mike, our bassist, is definitely more on the punk side of things. I'm probably more on the metal side. Um, and then our singers are definitely kind of in the middle. Same with the drummers. It just depends on who we're with at the time, to be honest. But yeah, definitely that's a fair assumption. And we try to make we don't try to like rip off anybody necessarily, It just kind of comes out that way.
Yeah, yeah, you
You know.
definitely. Yeah, and I wanted to bring it up. Your last studio album was "Depart from So Much Evil."
Yeah.
We'll talk about your live album in a little bit after this because that's a very cool
Yeah.
album as well.
Cool.
But we want to talk about our favorite song, which is "Slayberry" on there, and that song in itself got us thinking there has to be a cathedral influence, and I don't know if the
Oh,
two are
big time.
connected or we're just hearing things because there's a riff in there that sounds a lot like the song "Ride" from
Oh my
Cathedral.
gosh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I can't
So
wait to tell Travis, our singer, because me and him are monster Cathedral fans. Like we're
nice,
huge
nice.
fans of
Yeah.
them. Like I listened to Cathedral yesterday, and I
Underrated
listened.
band.
Dude, they're to me, they're like I think they don't get talked about near enough with Doom. Like people talk about all these other Doom bands all the time, and I'm like, that Cathedral never gets brought up. I think
Yeah.
Cathedral were kind of one of those bands where they were really diverse, and like they would be doomy, kind of more stoner, kind of like just rock,
Yeah.
almost. I mean, they just were. They played a lot of different tempos, and they were just like I loved them so much. And but yeah, Ride, that Ethereal Mirror in general is a fantastic record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I've been into them ever since the EP before that, the Soul
Right.
Sacrifice. And we've actually we're talking about covering Soul Sacrifice. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about your cover. You have some cool cover songs, and we'll talk about those in a little bit too.
Oh, cool.
Um, we also love the song "The Crypted" in the Ironbird
Yeah.
off that album. It's definitely
Yeah.
got that old thrash feel. And
Yeah.
then it starts off with that, but then it drops off into this like deep doom part in it, which is
Right.
which is
Yeah.
incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about the writing style and how you transition a song from that up tempo thrash into how you kind of end that song or where that goes?
Well, on Depart, when that was kind of a different, like almost an experiment for us. Like the there's the 22-minute Dante's Inferno thing,
Yeah,
and we recorded that first, believe it or not, and we were just gonna put that out and do a split with another band, but it just didn't come to fruition. So we're like, shoot, we got to write a record now. So we all basically wrote, for lack of a better term, solo music, and each member of the band wrote their own song. Like Slayberry is one of mine. Um, Crypted and the Iron Bird was Mike's, our bassist. He wrote everything in that. And so I really don't, I don't know. We just don't think about, oh, we're going to change it to this or this. But a lot of the times we will come up with like a subject. And Mike had this, it was like, I don't know if he was watching like a lot of Skywalker or Skinwalker Ranch or something, but
Mhm.
um, but yeah, it's basically about a time traveling Sasquatch. And the Iron Bird is a helicopter. He thinks it's like a bird. And the government's trying to take him away and do all this crazy stuff with him, and he ends up escaping and warning his fellow cryptids. And it's a cool story. The prequel is going to be on the next record. So, so yeah, we're nerds too. I mean, we
Nice.
like
We are
we love
too.
getting
Yeah.
yeah, like it's so cool. Like we're getting into the story of songs. But yeah, as far as that, Mike's a huge Geezer Butler Sabbath freak, and so that's the only thing I can think of is like, um, he's really into the punk rock, but he's also really into the doomy stuff, and so that's kind of where that song needed to go, because he wrote that whole thing, and yeah, and as far as Slayberry goes, that's actually about I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah.
And it's about Andy just losing his mind because nobody in Mayberry knows what they're doing. And that's why it's called Slayberry. It's a play on the word Mayberry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because the sample from the beginning's Andy. And he's talking to Barney. He's like, when this is over, I'm going to kill you. you know, and those two whistles are the beginning of the theme song. And
Nice.
so,
Nice.
so yeah, that's totally like, we don't try to take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun with what we're doing. But so yeah, that's kind of I don't know, probably a long-winded answer, but yeah, that's it on that.
It's a good answer. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
any answer is a good answer.
Yay.
And then I guess next to touch in, as you mentioned, it's the 22-minute song you have. This
Hmm.
feels like a call to like almost Rush or Blue Oyster Cult or like Iron
Yeah.
Butterfly.
Hmm.
What's the story behind that song?
It's funny you mentioned Rush. We were like, this is our 2112, and so that's that's how we modeled the song as far as like a layout. It's kind of like 2112, and I've always I've loved prog rock, and I've always been a huge fan of that stuff. Yes, and Rush and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Genesis, and like we were listening to a ton of that stuff when we were writing that. But it's about Dante's Divine Comedy, and it's an Italian poem. And our singer Travis read that thing, I don't know how many times, and he said he approached it like he's doing a book report at school. And he had different bubbles and how everything were like correlated, and like he really the lyrics he wrote were fantastic, and he wrote it from a slightly different point of view versus what the poem how the poem's written. It starts out with Inferno, and then the second part, that's the weird ambient crazy parts, Purgatory, and then it goes into Paradise. And Inferno was easy. Like we can write death metal all day. Inferno's totally about hell. So yeah, we can write about hell. That one was pretty easy. But that was fun. Like we got some of our friends to play. Like I have a friend that plays cello, and we have a friend that plays horns and stuff. And so we got them to record a bunch of cello and horn parts. And the guy that does our artwork, he narrates. And we had a bunch of guests on that song. Um, Curran Murphy, who he built my amps, and he's also in Venom Inc. Yeah, he plays a solo on there.
Yeah, we had Curran on before he
Oh, you
joined
did?
Venom Inc. Yeah, when he was
Yeah,
with
Oh, that's so
72
cool.
Legions, we had him on. What
yeah,
a great guy.
Yeah,
he's an
that
awesome
yeah,
guy.
he is cool. Like anytime we play in that area, like you guys stay at my house, and so we
Yeah,
don't have to get a
awesome dude.
hotel. So super cool guy. Builds killer amps too.
Yeah, he gave Eli a tour backstage when Venom Inc. was here on what he uses for
Yes,
amps and pedals and
man,
everything. So,
that's so cool. What a
yeah,
he's such a sweet guy.
yeah,
He was in
awesome dude.
Annihilator and Nevermore, and like that
Yeah,
guy,
Yeah.
he's such a cool dude,
he's
man.
seen
Like
some things and played some places.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, he's on it. He's been on a couple of our songs. He was on a song on Necroclosion too. Um, and okay, and then Purgatory was kind of interesting because um, at first we were like gonna make it a real doomy song, and then I don't know, one of us was like, what if it was just like weird, trippy ambient stuff? Like you're in purgatory, you don't really. It's just like it's kind of a lull, but it's also kind of frightening. So we just wanted like three notes to just keep repeating, and then we just started just layering all these weird noises. And I was like, man, we need some like anguished screams or whatever. And so we got on our social media and we're like, okay, everybody, please send us your screams. And so we had like people from all over the world sending us screams they recorded on their phone. And so we just started plugging all these different random screams in there. And like, there's people from Germany and from the UK and Mexico, Canada, like it's all over the
nice.
place. It was really cool. Like, it was real fun to put that together. And then Paradise is that one was probably the toughest one. That's got more of the proggy stuff, and just that section's like 10 minutes. And it was like acoustic guitar, and there's horns again, and there's like weird keyboard parts. And I don't know if you know who Philip Glass is, but he's like this composer, like, and the stuff he plays is or composes is real wild. Like he's done stuff with Ravi Shankar and stuff, but um, so there's some like Philip Glass sound and stuff in there, Genesis sound and stuff in
Mm.
there. And so yeah, we kind of went nuts with that song, with like just really going out there.
Yeah. Lyrically, your music is also super diverse. I know you've talked about like each
Hmm.
song tells a story, but you got like topics like about the atomic bomb, which that song
Hmm.
is Destroyer of Worlds,
Yep.
or punk rock like Shut Up and Skate.
Yeah.
Do you write the lyrics, and also where are these inspirations coming from?
I write lyrics a little bit. Mostly. like the first couple records, our singer James Heiser wrote pretty much all those lyrics. On Necroeclosion, it was kind of like we all pitched in on that because James had left right as we were getting ready to start recording that record, and so we got Travis in like in the middle of the recording process. And so our drummer at the time, Jay, myself, Mike, and um, oh, somebody's here. Sorry. We all kind of pitched in and wrote lyrics. We all pitched in and did vocals, and so yeah, it was a pretty interesting process. But um, yeah, the way that was put together was definitely different. And sorry guys,
Nah, no worries.
It's all right.
um, my, the fam just got home from dinner. So yeah, that was I was gonna say, oh yeah, lyrics. Yes, about lyrics. Yeah, like I'm trying to think. Sights to the Sky. I did that one and Brainstorm and I've done one on the new record. I usually do like one record, like for me, I'm not much of a lyric writer, but Sights to the Sky was a fun one. We had Chewy from Voivod play on that one, so that
Oh,
was really
nice.
cool. Yeah,
Very
that was
cool. Yeah,
really cool.
very cool.
Yeah, it's mostly like the vocalist, whoever our vocalist is at the time.
Yeah,
We're trying to we try to keep a consistent lineup, but it just when you're at the level we're at, we all have to have day jobs, we all have families, and it makes it difficult to be committed. You just
yeah,
it just makes it hard, and we try to not necessarily tour, but we played 30, 40 shows a year. We're pretty busy, and
yeah. It's
so
a
it
lot.
is a lot. But yeah, getting back to lyrics, yeah, it's mainly the vocalists and um, sometimes Mike's the big idea guy, so he'll suggest subject matter and just whatever pops in his head sometimes, or if we're watching movies or it just whenever it's kind of like the music, like we just get inspired whenever, and lyrics are kind of that way too, or subject matter. You're like, oh, that would be cool to write a song about, and we don't really put any like parameters on that, so that's probably why I guess that's why it's so diverse because we don't really put any shackles on it.
Keeps the listener on their toes, right?
It does, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Like when I'm listening to music, I like it when bands like bend my ear a little bit or like, oh
yeah,
wow, that's interesting,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So your last album was a live album that you put out, and it was like a
yeah,
year ago, I think,
yeah, something like
somewhere
that.
about.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
you recorded it in Denver.
Yes.
And I think that's really where Gravehuffer, I mean, above what you guys sound like in the studio, definitely a live feel to the band overall. I mean,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so how did you pick kind of Denver to do it, and what was that show like, and
Hmm.
what was the story behind wanting to do a live album?
Well, when we played there at this particular place, the the company that ran sound, they record every show and they also film every show. I think it was like six cameras or something. It's on YouTube, and the bands get the option to purchase different packages. And we're like, okay, well, we'll buy the audio and the video and just the raw stuff.
Right.
And so we did that, and I don't know who it was. It's like we ought to do a live album. I think it was kind of like a general consensus. I don't think it was that any one particular person, because we've had a few people ask us that, like, you guys should do a live album. And we're like, people really care, really? Like a live album. But
Right.
people actually have liked it. It really has surprised us how the interest that people put on it, and people buy it, and um, and then the covers that are on there, those were just for fun. We weren't really planning on doing anything with them, and we're like, we just ought to throw those on the live record as like a bonus track kind
Yeah.
of deal. And um, you know, that was kind of the covers were kind of like we just had some downtime and we were all kind of together at Mike's house and when he used to have the studio there and we're like, yeah, let's just record some covers and have some fun and just something loose and no, kind of like direction or anything. And it was just songs that we wanted to do, we talked
Right.
about doing. But yeah, yeah, the live album, it just kind of it was more of a happenstance thing. It wasn't really planned. It just kind of just happened.
Yeah. Uh, you have a lead-in of a Frank Zappa song on one of those covers on
Uh-huh.
Inca Road. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought that was cool and whatever.
And yes, we're huge Zappa freaks, especially Travis, our singer, our previous singer. But it's funny, Travis is like, he wanted to quit the band but now he's like still kind of not really in the band, but like he's helping with lyrics on this new record. And our singer Forrest, he's had some health issues, and he had an operation here last week, and he had a mass removed from his kidney. So, but he's doing really good.
Nice.
So good on that. But he's coming back, and he'll be playing with us in Amarillo and Colorado Springs next month. But so should be good there. But Travis is helping out with lyrics and stuff because it was a lot for Forrest to like join the band and then here write lyrics for 12 songs, and
Yeah.
so we welcome Travis's input. And Travis really wanted to do it. And he's a great lyric writer. So we're all kind of like, again, kind of pitching in, kind of like we did the last time. We had a singer change. We're all pitching in with lyrics and subject matter. And but yeah, as far as the Frank Zappa thing, we knew we couldn't do all of Inca Roads because like we're just not good enough musicians to pull off Zappa. Like, dude, Zappa's stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've always wanted to do Children of the Grave, and so we thought it'd be kind of cool to mash them up and see how that fit, and it somehow worked. And so it was just a lot of fun to do. We get asked about it a lot, and I'm like, that's really cool that people still like Zappa and appreciate it, and
Yeah.
Sabbath, of course.
Yeah. Uh, are you guys doing any dates from like, say, Joplin to Tampa? Tour
Yeah,
dates?
yeah. Actually, we're playing Tulsa September 4th, a place called the Whittier Bar. Fantastic place, really cool. They got this cool taco truck behind it. It's like $5 and you get more food than you can imagine. Like you never can finish it. Like and it'll like set you on fire. It's just amazing. And you have to be careful. Like you got to eat like way before you play, because otherwise you're gonna be like, oh my God, what am I doing? But really cool place, and like the people like pack it out every time you play there. It's so cool. And then Friday we're playing in Birmingham, Alabama, playing in a place we've never played before, and it's called the Nick, and it's been suggested to us by tons of people. So we're gonna hit Birmingham, and then Tampa that Saturday, and then Sunday we're playing in New Orleans at Poor Boys
Nice.
Bar, and then we'll head home Monday. And that's typically how we do it. We do 3 or 4 shows and um, come home for a couple weeks, and then we'll do 3 or 4 more shows. And like actually the week before the Tampa show, we're doing several shows. We're doing like where are we playing? Carbondale, Illinois, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then Louisville, Kentucky. The week before the Tampa run, so that month is going to be busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds crazy. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be
so
fun.
so
I'm so
that's
looking
some
forward to it.
highway miles there.
Yeah.
Before we skip on to our selfish part, where we get to talk
Uh-huh.
about you actually coming here and we get to see
Yeah.
you play at the Tampa Death
Yeah.
Fest, there's one more cover I wanted to make sure we covered on that album, which
Yeah.
is one of my most favorite songs of all time, which is Like Rats. Um, when that album came out, it was a life changer when Street Cleaner came out for me.
Me
Um,
too.
oh, good. Yeah.
Oh God, dude.
So
Oh
that may be the
crap.
heaviest album still to this
Oh
day I've
dude.
ever heard. And that
Yes.
song, like, it still like comes up on rotation. When I hear it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna listen to this for the next week.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna turn it up as loud as I can.
Yes,
And
and
like,
everything vibrates, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Anytime you play Godflesh, like the room kind of just falls apart.
yeah,
And I mean, I remember vividly going to the mall in our town, and I bought Street Cleaner and Morbid Angels Blessed Are the Sick on the same day.
nice, nice,
And those two records, I had never heard either band before. I just read about them in some like a magazine, guitar magazine, I think. And I was like, man, I'll check these out. And I'm like, oh, this stuff's cool looking. And I can't remember which one I listened to first. I think it was Godflesh. I think I listened to that first, and I was like, this is like legitimately scary sounding music. This is like
yeah,
1992, I'm like 16 or something.
yeah.
And like that's the thing about the that era. Like this music was all like new. There was nothing like any of this stuff. And then I put on Blessed Are the Sick, and I'd never heard blast beats or the death metal vocal. And I'm like, what the hell is all this? Like, I wasn't sure if I liked it or not. I was
Right,
like, it was
right.
just so like different and extreme and just like nothing I'd ever heard. But by the time it was done, I was like, man, that was so like just wild, and it just really piqued my interest for extreme music. And I feel
Yeah,
like usually that's what I tell people when they like, what is Gravehuffer? I said, we're just extreme music. Like we're extreme punk, extreme metal, extreme rock, extreme whatever, extreme doom. We just and it's sincere, like it's kind of how we like to put it. But yeah, like you say, Godflesh, life changer or game
yeah,
changer. Morbid Angel
yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely. Eli and I talk about that a lot too. Like, has all the good music been done? Have those styles been done? Because we hear a
Yeah,
lot of
right.
rehashing of the old stuff. Do you think, in your personal opinion, the
Mhm.
exposure now, younger kids especially, get to all different kinds of music all the time? They don't really go to the store and buy an album, listen to an album anymore. Do you think that's
Right.
changed the way music's written and recorded and the way it sounds and everything else?
Yeah, a little bit. It's so saturated. It's not that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different, and you just have to change your approach a little bit,
Yeah,
and how you can consume music or listen to music, and how you perform and write. Um, because it's just a different approach. You have to the way you release music, the way you market, all that stuff, creating content, what we're doing now, not like the interviews have always been a thing, but this is a little different kind of style,
yeah,
it's not in print, it's not in a magazine, um, it's more, everything's just more interactive, and which kind of takes the mystique away, I guess. But that's just the way things are anymore. You know,
right, right.
and
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
the
when
way it
I was
is.
not as into music and doing the fanzine thing and tape
Uh-huh.
trading, it was a
Yeah,
phone call with a band, and then you had to like
yeah,
make sure you translated it correctly off a
yep.
cassette tape you're recording on it. So
Right, you
yeah,
got to
everything.
write it all out, and
Yeah, everything's way different, and like,
it is.
I bought Darkness Descends, like the Dark Angel album, and it was like that's all I listened to for weeks was that
Yeah,
album, like start to
right.
finish, and just kept on rotation.
Yeah,
But now it's just like, you see 72 bands this week release a new album, and you can listen to all of them, or you can listen to parts of songs. So
oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely different.
yeah. You open up your email on Friday, and there's like 50 Bandcamp emails.
Yeah.
You're like, oh
Yep,
my gosh.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We were just talking about that. We were looking at my email, and one of those popped in, and we were like, Eli and I were talking about this thing, and it's like, yeah, there's another one. It's
Yep.
Bandcamp Fridays coming up too.
Oh
So
yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
yeah. So you're on your way to play Tampa Deathfest soon. You've played that before, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So how does
3 times.
Tampa compare to other places you played, and how is this festival different or the same, or how do you like it?
Tampa has always been just phenomenally cool for us. Like every time we play there, we get a fantastic reaction. They love us there, and particularly at Brass Mug, it's such a cool place to play. It's such a like legendary venue.
Yeah.
Like all the old guard, all the old death metal Tampa bands have played there. Like I think Obituary played there somewhat recently.
Yep.
We actually saw the Obituary show where they played there, and it was like so
Oh
many
yeah.
people you couldn't move, and it was like
Oh, I'm
300
sure.
degrees inside the club, and
Yeah, like it's insane, and
and
because Brass
we
Mug's not
saw
huge, but
no, and we saw Nasty Savage not too long ago there, and Nocturnus AD. So yeah, we
oh,
get to see all the. We're lucky
that's
enough to
so
get to see
cool.
the classic people,
Yeah,
Yeah.
as well
that's
as the
awesome.
newcomers.
I Hate
Yeah,
God and Crowbar playing.
yes, heck
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, of course, like that's just awesome. Um, and then the way the Brass Mug's laid out is it's easy to get on stage, get off stage, like set up and tear downs real cool, and you can tell that the people that run it, like they know what is required to run a good show. They know what musicians needs are. Everything runs just so smooth. Um, compared to some of the other places we've played. And it's just, I don't know, it's just always just a great time. We always sell a ton of merch, and it's always a win-win when we play there. And one
Nice.
time we played there, the headlining band that was after us like canceled or couldn't make it or something, and so like we had to play an encore, and we only knew like one more song. I think it was the Godflesh cover. I think we played Like Rats, and because people were just like would not stop, like one more song, like
Nice.
cheering and like making all this noise, and we're like, what do we do? We weren't ready for that. So we played Like Rats, and then like everybody's like, yeah, like, they liked it, so it was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Back to that song. I mean, even lyrically, that song is like spot on everything I was thinking about. At that time where
Oh yeah,
humanity's just turned into rats and we're just like
yeah,
kind of bred to exist.
yeah. It's just yeah,
Yeah,
people are disgusting, man.
yeah, yeah. Awesome song. So
Yeah, it
hopefully
is.
you're playing that. I'm rooting for you guys playing that. Maybe as an encore at the Death Fest. So.
Right. Well, we'll have to see if we can squeeze that in there. We don't have it on
Nice.
this set list right now, but it's
Ah.
easy enough. It's easy enough.
Yeah. And how about the promoters working with Eric and Tampa Bay metal scene? He's been doing it for a long time.
Yes.
We're trying to get a plug in for him because he's good. He's a
Mhm.
good friend of the podcast. So
Oh yeah.
how is it working with him and Tampa Bay metal scene?
Um, I've known Eric for quite a while. Can't remember how I initially got to know him, but um, he used to put out like compilations and splits, and Gravehuffer's been on quite a few of them. I think what they were called Horrific Unholy Noise. We're on a couple of those. I mean, this is going way back, probably 10, 12 years. And he put out a split with like four bands, and like it was us and Ulcer. Why can't I think? I can't think of who else was on it, but like they sold out so fast. Like we sold the heck out of those things. But yeah, Eric's always been fantastic to work with. Um, I played guitar on one of his band's songs.
Oh,
um,
nice, nice.
Blasphemation.
Yeah.
He had me play on a song. That was pretty interesting. Like it was weird playing to vocals and drums. Like I had to write my guitar and bass parts for a vocal and drum track. Like I'd never
Wow.
done that before.
Right.
So and it was pretty wild. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, Eric's fantastic, and we always try to support each other, and always try to hook him up with. I do printing. That's my day job is being a printer for a university. So I try to hook him up with like flyers and posters and
Oh,
handbills and
cool.
stuff to promote. And so yeah, man, we've got a fantastic relationship, and like I said, we've known each other for 10, 12 years at least. And so yeah, definitely like one of my top favorite just people in music to, you know,
Very cool.
yeah.
So what else can we do or the listener do to help support Gravehuffer? I mean, you guys sell a lot of merch you still sell vinyl online and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, our Bandcamp page is kind of our one-stop shop.
Yeah.
It's gravehuffer.bandcamp.com, and we've got all of our releases are on there digitally. We've got, I think, apart from So Much Evil and Necroeclosion vinyl, we've got a few more of the EP vinyls left, Demon Face and Stalingrad's Cross. Um, CDs as well, like the live record Mile High Lives up there, as well as Depart and Necro. We're working on whether or not how we're going to do Your Fault and Blasphemy Music. We're kind of wanting to do those, but like make them better, presentation wise, and because we've got stuff in the that we could like include on there to make them even cooler. Uh, so yeah, we're still working on that, but working on the new records kind of like taking the precedence.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely. Oh yeah, we got shirts and stuff, and um, they have glow in the dark ink on them, stickers, patches, all that good stuff. Posters. I mean, I'm a printer, so I print off all of our
Nice,
posters.
nice.
I think we've got like 7 or 8 poster designs, and
Well,
yeah. So,
we'll have to get one of those. We're getting ready
oh
to
yeah,
build like a kind of a real studio
there you
to do
go.
this in. So
Oh
yeah,
right, yeah,
we'll make
Yeah.
that part of the studio.
cool, cool.
Yeah. This interview was awesome, and we're stoked to
Yes.
see you guys and meet you hopefully soon. Any last words for our listeners?
I'm stoked and happy to have that you guys had me on the show, and we're definitely excited to meet you guys. And part of the fun in what, like, speaking for myself, and I'm sure the other guys as well, part of the fun for me doing this whole music thing is meeting my internet friends, in real life. I mean, I don't know what it is about that, but I always get such a kick out of it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I just like getting to meet these people that I've talked to that live hundreds of thousands of miles away sometimes, and the fact that music can connect us like that to me is the ultimate. And I don't know, I just that's one of the biggest reasons why I like being a part of the music scene is the connectivity and networking and just meeting new people and expanding the music family. And it's weird how small of the music family is, like everybody knows everybody, and
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that's, I can relate to all of that because that's what drew me into music when I was young. And,
Yeah.
when Eli started getting into heavy music, I was like,
Uh-huh.
yes,
I know, right? Yeah, like
let's do
yeah,
this. And I
yeah,
get to relive it all over again. And it's
exactly.
like all new all over again. So you're
Yeah, it's
very
all new
cool.
all over again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I get to share with him, your dad wasn't always a nerd. He was a pretty cool
Yeah,
guy once upon a time.
right, yeah.
Yeah, because my first like death metal show, it was Cannibal Corpse. Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Where
Yeah.
it started.
Immolation, I think, was one of your first bands
Yeah,
you
dark.
saw.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Dark Funeral and
Now we played with Dark Funeral.
Yeah, they're
yeah,
They
pretty
were
cool.
yeah, they were really cool. Huge crowd. It was cool.
Yeah, yeah, we saw them. That was a big crowd. Last few shows we've seen are pretty violent shows. So we had a lot of
Yeah.
slam bands
Terror.
come through
Oh
now,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
the slam bands.
All right.
and we saw Terror and yeah, a few other
Oh cool.
bands that are pretty
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, not like death metal shows are pretty timid. It's pretty like nobody gets hurt at death metal shows, but at those slam shows, people are swinging hard.
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So very cool. Thank you so much for coming on.
All